I'm sure that a lot of you have already heard that the dashboard looks a little bit different, right? Some of the objectives this year have been lightened up a little bit to help everybody to be successful. And with that, I have no doubt that all of you are going to be successful as areas, divisions, and as a district. But let's talk a little bit about that today and some of the things that can help with that. We're going to do a lot of sharing. I'm not going to break you out into groups, but we're going to do a lot of unmuting and talking or putting things in chat so that as a whole, the entire group can hear everything instead of just a small group of individuals. All right. So what was the main objectives of these sessions when we presented them? And again, this is a little bit of an abridged version. So Jennifer, Robert, Jason, if you're seeing it, you're going to see a little bit changes. It's not exactly the same, but it's tailored for your group of leaders. So we're going to look at identifying some of the solutions to district challenges, analyze those strategies that support your district goals, and then also identify the tactics to support and achieve these strategies. And I'm sure, no doubt, that Jennifer and her team has spoken to you about the district success plan they've been putting together and what their goals are for this year. This builds upon that to help all of you be successful in what you are contributing to the plan. So planning for district success, what does that mean, right? So it's a really broad term, right? We look at, this is what we want to do. This is our goal, whatever it might have been that you are putting together that you say you can obtain. Yes. But success is so many other pieces too, right? Leaving your district stronger than when it began is one of the most important pieces. And I heard Jennifer saying a lot, like, let's make sure that baton doesn't drop. That's absolutely true, right? As division directors, you have a lot and you're leading a team as well. So if somebody can't do something, find somebody else who can and work together with that team. And that's how you're going to plan for that success as much as possible. Everybody needs to be working together in that unison. All right, so we're going to start in this piece where we really just asked, what's the purpose of the district mission? So first and foremost, I'm going to ask somebody, what is the district mission? So go ahead and unmute. Let me know, whoever the first person to do it. And I'll always try to check on the raised hands too. It always pops off my screen. But who wants to share what the district mission is, and not Jennifer, Robert, or Jason? Sorry, I know you have them all automatically. Yep, they have to unmute. Do I have to unmute them? Just want to make sure. Sorry. Or can they unmute themselves?
They can unmute themselves.
Okay, perfect.
Come on.
All right.
It's too shy, too quiet.
Rhonda, I saw your hand go up, so you go right ahead.
What is we support all clubs in achieving excellence.
Okay, I love the Jeopardy theme. That's great. And you are right on target. And you left out a couple of words, which are filler words, right? So it's why don't we go? I'm gonna let Jennifer unmute and say exactly how it should be.
We support all clubs and build new clubs in achieving excellence.
Yep, it's hooked around, right? It's we build new clubs and support all clubs in achieving excellence. You have exactly the mission. Whether it's one way or the other way, you have exactly what the purpose is, right? We're going to build clubs and we're going to support all of our clubs. So thank you so much, Rhonda, for sharing that. So what we're going to look at here, and I say 30 seconds or less because we are Toastmasters and we like to give very long-ended responses. It's just the way we are built. But what is the purpose of the district mission? So what do you really feel like is the main purpose? So, you know, that's a lot of words that we put out there and things that we say, but why are we doing it? Who would like to share? What do you think? I see Susan put it. What am I looking at?
The rest of that is.
Okay.
It's a roadmap to growth.
Oh, absolutely, right? So for the growth, right? So what happens, that's kind of like a two-ended, right? What happens if we don't grow, right? And we look at a lot of things. If we don't grow as an organization, there's what happens, right? So sustainability. I see Terry saying sustainability. Absolutely. Yuri, you had your hand up. What do you see?
Well, to answer the question, we know what the mission is. As in overall, maybe bigger picture is to create a scenario where people can, whatever goals they have in their lives, they can they get closer to achieving those goals through Toastmasters, and if they don't quite see the way to do that, then we are tasked with helping them to do that. Ultimately, all of us here are to, well, if anything, make more money elsewhere through Toastmasters, of course. And I think that's something that everybody can look forward to being more prosperous in their lives.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of, so some of the things put in chat is sustainability, accountability. We stay stagnant if we, and I'm assuming that's to the, if we do not grow, right? Thanks, Rhonda, for that. Absolutely. And then a guiding compass. Absolutely right. We need to be all working together. And the mission gives you that main purpose, the main, keeping the main thing at all times. If what you're working on isn't specifically to build clubs or support your clubs, you're working on the wrong thing. Right? At the end of the day, those are our main purposes. And what anything you should be working on or working towards should be supporting that. And then we all know where we're going. And at the end of the day, we're all heading towards that lighthouse, right? We're not over here, some are in the water playing, some are on the beach. Nope, we're all heading towards the same spot. So aligning with the district mission is really important, right? Making sure that we're building clubs, the membership growth. And I had that piece, right? You stay stagnant if you're not building. If we're not building, then we start to dwindle off. And we've all seen that, right? The past couple of years have been difficult, and we know that. COVID kind of changed things up. We see a few less clubs on our dashboards, and that's troublesome, right? So at this point now, what do we do to keep what we have and then grow more so that we continue to strive and show our mission and show what we're about to everyone so that we grow like we were pre-COVID, and we know we can do it. Membership retention and distinguished clubs. Those are the other piece, right? So looking at, yes, you want the growth, but where are we retaining? So it's a perfect balance to say, Robert's speaking about club renewals. How are our clubs doing? Bringing them back, keeping them happy. Jason's working on the whole part of how do we look at clubs being healthy and really making sure that they're hitting that distinguished club level. And then Jennifer's helping to keep it all together with the work of all of you. So those are your goals throughout the year, and how can we achieve those? When you look at distinguished clubs, looking at educational awards, new members, are the clubs working on bringing actively new members to the table? Training those members. So we talk a lot about that, right? The officers getting trained, but also the members having that orientation to allow them to understand what is to offer for them, right? The administration pieces. These are all things that helps the club to be distinguished. We find out more times than not, and I'm sure you've seen this, how many new members have not signed up for pathways, right? If they're not working the educational program, what are they doing? So in 6 months after they first signed up, a lot of times they fall off because they're not working that program. So where are the clubs at with doing an orientation or helping their members to work through and start with an icebreaker and keep moving? We don't see the large dip of members not being onto pathways that have been existing or officers. It's the new members, and there's no other option for them. So really we look at the clubs and saying, what aren't they doing? What are they missing? And that's what's really important about your area visit reports. And I've heard some of those are coming in, which is fantastic. But what could they be doing a little bit better? And it's not about telling them what they're doing wrong. It's giving them guidance on what they could do better. And that's the point of feedback, right? And it's not look at it as a negative, but to look at it as a positive where we can all grow together. So let's talk a little bit about the district recognition program. I heard about the dashboard. I heard Robert talking about the dashboard, right? So we're going to look at that in a second. But what is really involved in the district recognition program? It's that membership growth that we talked about. So just a member number changing, right? As members renew, and then you add in new members. Club growth. So really adding a new club and adding that to your base number. That's the club growth piece. And then distinguish. So all three of those together is what's going to make up for a distinguished district or better. You need to have all three, not just one or the other. So let's look at what your role is and all of that. This is your District 35 dashboard as of last night. So this was 11:30 p.m. last night. So it's super current, right? I want somebody, so division director, area director, doesn't matter, telling me what you see here, because I find that a lot of times not everybody knows what they're looking at. Who would like to share what they can see just from this snapshot?
What stands out is the payments, and maybe it feels time sensitive because we are what 15 days away, and probably a number would be hopefully, I don't know, half of it by now. And that from this, the takeaway is it's just another way. Just means continue to reach out to clubs and ask to renew. But that number by itself just definitely stands out as far as its how the quantity of it.
Okay. Absolutely. So, and here's the thing too, right? And do not get discouraged with when you see 411 to 2540, right? So let's talk membership payments at this point. Your base number is 2540. So as of July 1st, that is what Toastmasters has registered as your members. Now that does not mean you have 2,540 members. That means you had 2,540 member payments. So I want to be really clear on that, right? So when you look at members, we typically say cut it in half. It's not necessarily half because you do have some members that are in dual clubs, or you do have some that came in the second half of the year that weren't there at the first half of the year. But it's usually a pretty good guide to say half. So at that point, at the September renewals are over, or October 1st, you should be at half of the 2540, right? So when we start looking at that, you should be as close to 50% of your membership payments fulfilled. That'll help keep you on target, right? So as you're looking at that and you're kind of gauging throughout the year, and then with your April renewals, the other half should come in. Now, that's not saying you haven't lost any members, which we know does happen, unfortunately, and then also the renewals of any brand new members too. So as you have new members come in, that number changes. So that's where the point of your retention is really important, and then also the new members that come through. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that this isn't necessarily too bad, right? So you're looking at, you want 1,200. You're at 400 right now, and that's typically, you've had some membership payments roll through, but you've also had new members join since January 1st or July 1st. So that's where that number is coming into play, right? So hitting hard now with your renewals. And then we know that there's going to be clubs that don't renew on October 1st, and that's okay. Then you'll work with them to get as close, and if not succeed, that 50% mark, that it'll say -50. Hopefully you're in the 49s, 48s by the time of April. So then you know when that renewal is coming through, you should be able to hit and then hopefully succeed past it. So I'm seeing things pop up in the chat. Robert's one of those that likes to keep telling me things, which is fantastic. So he says 1,151 new unique members as of 9/14. So he's pulling the list, and that's fantastic. So of that number, you'll see some are duplicates, but there's 1,151 members in your district. Yes, and I agree. I'm seeing Joe say the same thing, right? Many people pay their dues last minute. We know that. The influx of dues renewals between the 30th of September and October 1st is a lot, right? But any help that you can get, or talking to your clubs early to know, are they going to hit those, will help. And you also want them to renew on time because that's part of the distinguished goals for that club. That's half of their goal point, right? So if they're getting the renewals in on time, that's going to help them towards their distinguished goals. So it's really important that they do get renewals in on time. Okay, so what else are we seeing here? Who else would like to share what you're seeing? Susan's taking a lot of great notes. When I have people on my screen, I start to call on them. So Susan, let me know what you think you see from the dashboard. Sorry.
I probably fall into that group that doesn't pay a lot of attention to stuff other than what's going on in my area. So
And that's
I'm
okay.
guilty of that. When I see these kinds of goals, they look astronomical to me compared to what I see in my own area, my A2. So I think they're admirable, achievable areas. I think it requires a lot of work on everyone's part. I feel I'm doing my job, and I'm sure everybody else feels they are as well, but there's a long way to go. But the saving grace here is we're only 2 months into this year.
Absolutely.
So there's a long way to go.
And the one piece too, so the reason why I showed this, and then we can, you know, if I were to doing just a dashboard training, I would dig into your area too for you specifically. But what's the best part is that when you look at the 89 paid clubs, you look at the base payments of 2540 and distinguished goal part, those are for all of your areas and divisions roll up into this. So your small part per se plays a big part in the overall number. So when we look at underneath distinguished clubs, the goal is, in order to be distinguished, you need 36 clubs. So from your area, so A1, if you have 2 clubs be distinguished, that knocks away 2 that are needed, right? So it's looking at what's achievable in your own area, and then division director is looking at what's achievable in your division, and then that helps the whole goal pull together. So as much as we think we're a little piece, we're a big piece, right? So one club can sometimes make the difference. One member payment, and it's all coming together and looking at what can you do to help support your clubs? Where can you help them see the value in renewing, the ability to get their goals in to be distinguished? And then where are there opportunities for new clubs and finding those new clubs? Okay, so we're going to look at a couple of scenarios. So these were just generic scenarios given during the training to look at what a district was putting together as their goal. And then I'm going to ask if you feel that these are obtainable. Do you think that they're a good goal? What could be done a little bit differently? So here's the first scenario for planning for their district to be successful. So District X achieved distinguished status during the past 2 years. So last 2 years, they've been distinguished. Their goal is to achieve distinguished for a 3rd year now in a row. They will continue to use the same strategies that were successful during the past 2 years. Now, is this a good goal, or is there something that you think could be different? What do you think how this would frame for if they were putting this together as their goal for the year? Okay, Susan.
Anytime you see same strategies, it means that you could be in a rut. So what I would suggest for this scenario is to look at what those strategies were and see what you can do that's a little bit different. So it might be looking at a different age group for that club or for that division. It might be looking at different ways to advertise or simply motivating the people within the club to really want to grow their own club by telling other people. And that in turn grows other clubs.
Absolutely. And I did want to point out too, that just because this says district, right, this can hold true for your areas, for your divisions, and for your clubs. So it doesn't have to be, I mean, that's just the same goal as a whole. So absolutely agree with you, Susan. Thank you for sharing. Patrick.
Well, in this scenario, I'm looking at it where it's like the first answer is there's not enough information. So what I mean by that is obviously the plan was successful, but if there's something that's small or like an event or something that, you know, did not fit, but it didn't hurt the goal, I would think that would need to improvement in order to maybe this year might improve a goal or at least keep it where they are. So it's kind of like not enough information to judge, but they need to do better on everything, I guess I would say. So
Absolutely, right? And that's another piece too, not having enough information. So you can have a goal, but where's the detail behind it? And I'm more of a detail person too. You want to know how you're going to get there or what you use to look at that goal and put that goal together, right? I see Rhonda in the chat saying, what else can they do to achieve distinguished, right? And we get in that rut, like Susan said, or even Patrick, not giving enough information. You get very set on, oh, well, every year we're distinguished, right? I had a club, was it my district director? No, it was my PQD year. And it made me really sad because they were presidents distinguished every year. We knew they were going to be the presidents distinguished every year. And 4 days before maybe it was a full week, but a couple days before the end of the term, at the end of April or at the end of June, they're like, oh, we're distinguished. And I had sent out an email just saying, hey, just a reminder, you need two more members. And they said, no, we're presidents distinguished. I said, no, you have 10 goals, but you still need 2 more members. And they didn't realize that. And that was the year that they didn't hit distinguished. And they were technically presidents distinguished because they didn't realize they needed 2. And they were stuck in the mindset that we are presidents distinguished every year. We're just going to be, right? And somebody wasn't looking and somebody wasn't paying attention. So that was a big eye opener to me, to not always assume that just because someone's distinguished every year, they're going to be every year after that, right? Or making sure that you're hitting them early. And we do say, and I absolutely agree, we're 2 months into the year, right? But it's really easy to forget. And then 8 months down the line, we're trying to get everything and there's not enough time sometimes. So making sure that you work with the clubs, even the ones that are always successful, to say, hey, don't forget you need to do this. And you're right. So if we're looking at our goal is, well, we're always this, we've been this for 2 years, we're going to be again. My thought on that is, well, what else can you be doing, right? Or what are you not thinking about that you're just making assumptions on, right? You still have to check off some boxes to make sure you get there. Yuri, I saw your hand go up.
An example you just described, mentioning word assumptions and looking at the dashboard. And even though I know everybody here knows this well enough, I do think that the dashboard does not quite make that membership requirement clear enough, because as you said, the club can achieve all education goals in the training and in the administration. If they fall one member short of that 3 now, they will not qualify to be a distinguished club because of that one member. And that assumption seems to be only realized maybe a bit too late. I guess my takeaway is that maybe a dashboard can clarify, or I guess bring out the requirement more. Otherwise, you'll continue assumptions about membership not being that one goal is a must.
Absolutely right. And it's looking at how do we view the dashboard too, right? So when a club clicks on it, and those are things too, as area and division directors, as you're moving throughout the year, screenshot some of those, go on the actual club, screenshot. It shows it, it'll say, this is the requirement, right? And it'll show that they're at this and they need this for members. And that's just my takeaway was sharing that with you, was saying, do it early, right? So we know we do it sometimes, we get bogged down, but with your April renewals, like once April renewals hit, if you have some clubs and you're seeing the goals are up there, but their membership's not, start doing a screenshot of their dashboard and saying, hey, I see this, great job. Don't forget, you still need these couple. Sometimes we forget about it, and absolutely agree that being able to see that. The one thing too, with the revamp that they did this year, so it used to be for goals to hit. So if you have your goals to hit distinguished, you had to be 20 plus members or base plus 5. Now it's base plus 3. And I say that because if you have some clubs that are renewing with 8 members, if they get up to 11 members, they can still be distinguished if they hit their educational and administrative goals. So it's very achievable this year too, even for some of your clubs that you feel might be struggling a little bit. So kind of thinking about that when you're mapping out what you think can be achievable this year for your areas, divisions, and districts as a whole. Okay, so there's a second scenario that was presented, and let's see what we think about this goal that was set. So District Z had many clubs suspended last year. Their goal is to have no net club loss and to strengthen their existing clubs. So is this a good goal?
No,
Okay, why?
because they don't really say how they're going to. I think it's easy to say you want to be the best district. The question is, how are you going to be the best district? I feel like there need to be more details. I mean, it's a great start, but I feel like there need to be more of what they need to fix or what they need to strengthen. More details.
Okay, so if this was yours, and this is where I like to ask follow-up questions sometimes. If this was yours, what would you change about it?
I would try to pose a plan on what is no net loss, for each club. Is it the president reaching out to the members? Is it, the area directors reaching out to all the presidents? It would be more of a map down. So you would know.
Absolutely agree. And some of the things I'm seeing in chat, right? That's a type of negative goal. Absolutely. Susan, I agree, right? So, and we were kind of stretched with this too. So as much as, there's an area success plan, there's a division success plan, there's a district, there's a region one too. Like I have to fill out one of these every year too. It's several pages, right? But it's not looking at the negative. Absolutely. And that was something that was said to us last year during our first year, right? Part of our goal was no net club loss, right? Or, well, okay, how can you make it positive, right? And that's very true, right? So yes, we don't want to have club loss. And we know that the goals this year is saying your base stays the base, and that can make you distinguished. But you should still be, where's that stretch goal, right? What are we doing extra? So if we're always just having the same number of clubs renew, what are we doing with the growth, right? And we know at some point there's going to be a club that falls off, or there's going to be something that happens that's outside of your control. But also, what are we doing to spread the word, to market, and to help bring in new clubs and new members to the organization? So absolutely agree. Like, no net club loss is great to say we're going to make sure and renew all of our clubs. We're going to retain all of our clubs, but then we're also going to grow, right? And then I see, you know, where Terry said strengthening their existing clubs is vague, right? What does that mean? So when I say I'm putting a goal together, where is it specific, right? Going back to those SMART goals, where can you say that you've obtained this, right? Just saying strengthen their existing clubs, what does that mean? Does that mean bringing all of your clubs that are between 8 to 12 members to 12 to 15? Does it mean, like, where is it specific? And I heard Patrick say that as well, right? And then Cole said, not enough information in this scenario. Why did they have a lot of clubs suspended last year? Lack of membership, lack of advertising. Exactly, right? Getting to, sorry about that, getting to why, what's happening, what's the root of the problem, why are we at this, why have we been losing clubs year after year? Because just to assume that we're not going to lose some clubs this year is really naive, right? If you haven't gotten to the root of what's going on and what could be changed in order to make it better. Also saying state the goal in a positive way, highlighting actions. Absolutely agree. Okay. So now we're going to have chance to look at what you do in order to plan for achieving your district goals, right? So you look at historical data, and I've seen a lot of that popping up in the chat, right? What has been happening? What has been going on? And if you look at the dashboard, there's 10 years worth of data out there. You can go back 10 years and see what happened in your specific area with your specific clubs, if the clubs are around, what was going on in the district, and trying to figure out some ideas as to what can make you successful now. What's achievable, right? Setting a goal. So if every year a district is losing members, and it's great to say you want to have that stretch goal, but have a goal and then have a stretch goal. And I always say that. Think of what you really know can be achieved and then what you can do extra. Because once you hit that achievable goal, then you want to keep striving for something else. So I always say to have two in there, like what's achievable and then where can you stretch to? Identify your team members that are going to help achieve the success. And this is true for all of you, right? If you're an area director, do you have an assistant? Do you have certain clubs that you know specifically are going to be hitting your distinguished levels? Are they able to help other clubs? Are they to be your driving force? Identify those and then evaluate the success throughout the year. So just because you set your plan today, well, are you looking at it again next month and the month after to see where are you at and what can you do differently? And then make those changes when and where necessary. And you'll hear this throughout the time with your trio, that they're going to be looking at what's working. Can we update our success plan? Can we do things a little bit differently? So it's always a working document. All right, we're going to talk about overcoming challenges. So this is a exercise. I'm going to drop something in the chat for you right now. So there is a document. I changed it into Word so that you're able to type into it rather than a PDF form. So you should be able to type over just fine in this document. What the point of this is, it's called brain writing, and the fact that you're going to write down one of your challenges in your role currently. So what you are facing directly in your role, what's going to help to identify ways that you think you're not going to be successful. So right now you have a challenge and you think if this challenge isn't made better or that you're able to work on it a little bit more, that you might not be successful, right? So that's the point of this. So at the top of the document, and we're only going to do part of this. So when you're in person, technically, we switch these around, or I didn't really want to break you into groups and do that. So we're going to do it all open, and we're going to talk through some of these, and you're all going to give each other suggestions and ideas and allow it to write down. So what you're going to do is at the top of this form right now, write one challenge that you feel you are facing in your role right now that could keep you from achieving a distinguished status. And I'll give you a few minutes to do that. How are we all doing? We think we can at least start. So does anybody have, and we're going to move on to my next slide. And again, if you're still thinking, that's okay, or writing it down. But what we're going to do now is we're going to unmute. So whoever would like to share is going to unmute. You're going to state what your challenge is. And then in the boxes below, this is where you're going to now allow other members of the group that are on to give you suggestions, to say some different ideas on maybe that you could think about to help with this challenge, right? So this is to give you a multitude of ideas to help with maybe overcoming some of those challenges. And the second part of that was, how does the challenge relate to accomplishing the district mission? But we'll kind of look at that after. So I see Rhonda with a hand up. So you go ahead.
Yes, a few of my clubs in the division don't have up to 8 members, so I want to see how they can get up to the 8 members so that they can be a club in good standing.
Okay. So now we're looking for ideas for Rhonda, right? Some of the things, and Rhonda, this is where others, and we're going to look, they can use chat if they want to, but I really love for the unmute option if we can, because that way the group hears it too. But what are some ideas or things that you think could help with this challenge? And it doesn't have to be perfect, right? And it's probably things that even Rhonda's thought about, but that's okay. Jason. So let me ask really quickly, did the document not come over into the chat?
No, it came through the chat. I've downloaded it.
Okay, I had a couple people say they weren't able to grab it, so I was just curious.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Jason, sorry.
One easy one to consider is, have they reached out to all of their past members?
Okay, so reaching out to past members, that's absolutely great, right? Susan.
Take a look at that infamous dashboard and see whether it's in your area or even in your district, who looks like they're doing very well, and get in touch with their vice president of membership and possibly the president of that club and say, hey, could I talk with you for a few minutes and find out, how'd you get all those people?
Absolutely, right? How did you get all those people? And that's a great point, right? Sharing, and I'm a big believer in sharing. So if you know something works as a club, or you know one of your clubs is doing something that's magical, try and get them to share that with others. Who else has any suggestions or ideas or things that you've seen work that could have worked 5 years ago, and that's okay. It doesn't mean it won't work now. Who else? I'm going to give me 1 second. I need to resend this document. Okay.
Have an open house.
An open house, right? Open house is fantastic. What happens? So here's my question to everybody for open houses, right? So we're all planning open houses. Do we ever look at the idea of ongoing membership drives? The reason why I say that is many clubs focus on open houses, right? We have 1 or 2 a year. What happens if those aren't successful? And the reason why I say that is sometimes they put all their money in this and they say, we're going to do this open house. And what happens? 1 or 2 people show up and they're really banking on needing 5 new members. When I say have continuous membership drives, what that means is saying, where can we get 1 new member a month to join our club? And I think that that's obtainable, right? So if you're saying bring a guest, or if we've had people reach out to us, or if we've had past members that haven't renewed, but really focusing on, can we just bring in 1 new member a month instead of waiting and bringing in a whole bunch? That really helps with that, right? And it's achievable more so than saying, oh, we're down 5 members and we now all of a sudden need 5 members. And in 1, 2, if you're a smaller club and you have a large open house, let's just say, and you have 8 guests come and you only have 7 members there, what happens, right? You're very stretched thin. So sometimes being able to say, we just want to bring in one new guest a month and having tried to turn them into a member, sometimes it's a little bit more obtainable. I saw something about Speechcraft, I think popped up in here. Encourage clubs to host Speechcraft sessions. Absolutely, that is a great idea. Have a club social event, members bring in other members. So strengthening membership cohesiveness and can make it more likely that everybody will pitch in. Absolutely. Lee, I saw your hand go up.
Yes. One thing that might be helpful is looking at groups of potential members, reviewing that in your local community. For example, we had a lot of clubs that had medical professionals in them. And then a lot of those medical professionals just dropped out of clubs because they got too busy during COVID. So taking another look at them and saying, are these people ready to come back?
Absolutely. Right. And that's the thing too. Like, I feel like even though you've reached out to somebody one time, doesn't mean you can't reach out to them again. And the reason why I say that is timing is sometimes the perfect animal, in the fact that you might reach out to somebody and say, hey, do you want to hold a position? Or do you want to come join my club? And they're saying, no, I got too much on my plate. Right. But then all of a sudden, 3 months from now, maybe they don't, or whatever was their busy time, or what they felt was different in their job, or maybe they're looking to change careers. There's several reasons why somebody might be willing to come back now that wasn't 6 months ago or a year. So it doesn't mean that you shouldn't ask them. Or if you had a member that was part of your district that was really active and then kind of fell by the wayside, reach out to them too. It doesn't mean that they're not somebody that could work with you or help on a team or join again. A lot of times it's just because we don't ask. And I even find that with membership, right? With members, you have a guest come through the door. How many times do we not sign up a new member? But then we ask ourselves, do we ask them to join? So it's just kind of those things that just because someone said no before, doesn't mean you can't reach out to them. What else? Now, who has another challenge that they would like to share and get some ideas on? And I did see one. So I had come through in my chat, and I think it was, let me make sure who gave that to me really quickly. That's Lori or Liz. So Liz, if you'd like to unmute and tell us your challenge, and then we're going to give you some feedback. So Liz's was, let me grab it for you really quickly. Sorry.
Hi. Hi,
Jack.
okay.
Sorry about that. There you go.
Sorry about that. I was trying to find my mute button.
No worries.
So my challenge is there's 2 clubs that might be in danger of closing within the next year. One is a corporate club, and I met with them, and they have 6 people, and nobody has time to write speeches. Nobody really wants to be the president or run anything. And then another club is down to 3 people that come on a regular basis, but they're looking for a spot to meet. And I think if they find a physical place, that might change things, but not sure.
Okay. So having, and that's a challenge, right? So if you have 2 clubs within an area that are having difficulty with membership, right? And you're worried that they're going to go away, what are some things that you think can help with that challenge? So, and again, this isn't perfect. So anyway, just throw out ideas, and it doesn't have to be something necessarily, but from my perspective on that, and that you're speaking to, location. So the bigger part is, can they combine with a club for right now, or can they help each other out in the meantime, would be my thought or suggestion. Not necessarily that it might work, but maybe you have another club that's willing to co-host with them to help keep some of those members along and do some things.
They're already doing that with one of the clubs I'm into.
Sorry if I missed that. Okay, so let's see some other ideas. Patrick.
Well, for a corporate club, maybe, find out the HR or even the CEO that it's paying for it, and say, hey, what this club is struggling. I've talked to them. They're kind of, can we reach out to new employees or reach out to other employees and try to, build up to it. Obviously, the corporate club, they're paying for it, so they probably want it around in some type of capability. Or so maybe it's the people that are in the club that can't reach out because they're overworked, but maybe a higher manager could say, hey, let's bring more people to us.
Absolutely. Agreed. There was another hand up and it ran away, but Terry.
So regarding the club with 6 members where they don't have time to give speeches and lack in leadership, And I would say in that case, each of those 6 members needs to commit to giving it their all to make this club go. They have to give speeches. I mean, we're Toastmasters, that's core of the program. And they have to volunteer for these leadership roles. They cannot rely on someone else to come in and save the day. And if they can't make that commitment, then, you know, unfortunately, we might need to say goodbye to that club. Not ideal. We never want to say goodbye to a club, but we can't do that for them, right? We can't care more about their club than they do, because once we move on to helping the next club, who's going to be there to keep the momentum going?
And I know that there's a lot that say, you know, no club left behind and things like that. And it's hard. It's hard from that perspective to say, are they past help and things like that? I don't always believe that's true, but then there are some times in some cases that if it's year after year after year, but you can't care more than the club, and absolutely agree with what was said there, right? So you have to find either that driving force or if there's somebody else, and that's where reaching out to past members, and I say is sometimes really important, because these last 2 years, which is different than any other year, you had members leave for other reasons than just not being into the program, right? There's a lot of other factors. So now that things have kind of started turning to hybrids or more in person and things, a lot of those members that left might be coming back. So I would give that as an encouraging piece. Susan.
One of the things that I think members don't look at when they fill out the application is the Toastmasters Promise. And so our club has taken it upon itself to bring that to the forefront every once in a while. And if you're not giving speeches, one of those items is you will give speeches. You will take an officer role. You will help others in the club. Those are all things you signed up for and you paid to have the honor of doing. So sometimes it's just reinforcing and reminding people because they forget. And, you know, it was flashed up here a little bit earlier, but I think sending it out sometimes to members and saying, which one of these do you need help with, or which one are you good at? Those kinds of things.
Agreed. And that's really big too, that everyone forgets that they did sign that, you know, whether it be virtually or not, you signed that agreement to say, this is what I want to work on, and this is what I want to do and what I'll take part in. And a big part is looking at each other's whys. And I encourage that in clubs too, especially, is to remind your members why they joined, right? Everybody had a different why, but why did you walk through that door? And then where are you at on that journey, right? So if you came in because you wanted to be a better presenter, then why don't you want to get up there and give speeches? That's kind of going it back. And then this is what we can do to help you get there, right? If you're nervous in front of a room, okay, well, how are you going to get unnervous unless you're in front of a group of people? So it's really looking that and asking them, and they might have changed their whys, but figuring out why are they there? And that's really going to sometimes help with that motivation. And I do agree. So Liz said, you know, it's a corporate club. They have short staffed right now and work lots of extra hours. I completely understand, right? That might be the question of asking where their why is, or why they were joining, or what they were hoping to get out of it. And maybe there's a way to work that out, right? Or if there's lack of preparation time to give speeches. I've seen this in lower membership clubs before. They'll do something almost like, they called it a debate in one of my clubs. So what they would do is they'd have somebody present a topic, and then you'd have the people that were there be on opposing or four sides, and they would speak to that. So it's almost like a longer table topic session, but it allowed them to speak off the cuff, to be able to put together a few minute presentation and do something that was unplanned to help get them speaking and doing things at the time was not available to them. Susan.
One of the other things that I've been trying to promote within my area is the fact that if you are in a corporate club or any club and you have to do a presentation outside of a club meeting, get somebody from your Toastmasters club to either silently sit in the back of the room if that's permitted, or to silently sit on the Zoom session and write a evaluation. So they're probably not going to want to give an oral evaluation in a production meeting at a corporate club, but having that helps them to move forward by taking what they normally do in their jobs and assigning it to a speech. And sometimes it's an elective. So look ahead as you can in all of the different pathways to see what might be coming up, that you could take something you have to do as part of your job, you have to prep it anyway, go ahead and give that, and they get some feedback on it.
Absolutely. And we used to do that in my corporate club as well. Seeing, lots of things in the chat, encouraging Liz to take some of the pieces down. But yeah, marathon sessions, impromptu educational sessions. We used to have a spot in my advanced club always on the agenda for educational sessions. So if we were lacking on speeches, somebody could give an educational session, or we could do longer evaluations too. Or if we knew it's speech contest time, we would give longer periods of time on our agenda, but lots of things. Okay, so one more. I have time for one more challenge. So let's move to, and what I'm going to do after this too is encourage all of you to continue to do this with each other. But this is just to give you an idea of what it looks like. So who has one more challenge that they'd like to give?
One of my challenges, I'm sure it's common across everyone here, is for a recent member, they are often just hard to, and yet it takes a conversation or more than one conversation, but often it's hard to convince them to renew when they be in a club for say 2 months, and they just, I don't know if it's just them not, they attend the meetings and all that, but they just have, there's not enough time yet for them to begin to realize all the benefits, and now they're like hesitant, I don't really want to renew, and it's difficult to convince them to renew with that, just with the lack of time yet. And I don't know if that's a way, if there's a few keywords that can be used, but that goes towards keeping the person, which is something I want to do. But at the same time, when they just say, I don't know, I'm not sure, it's difficult to get them to a yes, unless there's some keywords that can be used.
Okay, so I'm hearing the problem would be, or the challenge is that a newer member being able to find the value in renewing, right? So what are some things that you could say or give to them as a reason for renewing their membership? So who has some ideas for there? And I'd love to hear all of your ideas, because I don't want to be the one just giving ideas. Robert.
If they've only been a member of your club for 2 months and you're having a hard time renewing them, to me that sounds like you had some dysfunction in the process of them joining in the first place, because after 2 months they shouldn't already be disillusioned and burnt out. That's for people that have been involved for a long time. So I would double back and figure out, okay, you joined 2 months ago. Why did you join? Figure out the stuff, treat them like a new member, pretend that they're not a member of your club and you're trying to convince them to join for the first time, and go through that entire process. Figure out what their goals are, figure out how to connect those goals to Toastmasters, and then ask them for the renewal.
Absolutely agree, right? And I'm seeing a lot of that in the chat, right? What's in it for them, finding out why they joined, bringing it back to those type of things. One little piece really quickly, and then I'll give it, actually, Polly, go ahead and tell us what your idea is.
Well, I was thinking sort of along with what Robert was saying, if you have a new member that's less than a year and they're already not willing to renew, then what is we doing as a club or as a district or as an individual that is not giving them the experience they thought they were going to get when they got here? Because that's it. He mentioned the word disillusion, right? They're disillusioned with the process, right? They're not disillusioned with themselves. They're disillusioned with us. Mm-hmm. So it comes back to me. What am I, if I'm the VP of education, if I'm the president of the club, what's going on with our meeting that isn't grasping them and keeping them excited or in the process?
Absolutely agree. Here's my other piece that I would throw out there just in case. So if it's me and it's, let's say it's last month, right? So we're in August and I have a new member walk through the door, I'd be selling them the program for more than just the 1 or 2 months. I'd be selling them the program for a minimum of to the next renewals period. And that's just the way that I would do it, because sometimes it's more difficult too. In 2 months, sometimes it'd be like, oh, you need to pay again. So I tell that, okay, this is going to bring you through April, and have them pay the pro rate plus the 6-month renewal term. And you don't even have to worry about it. That would be my feedback if you're seeing a lot of that. But even if you have a new member coming through right before renewals, have them pay for to the next renewal period. There's no reason you can't. Or even new members too, if your club's open for that. I know Toastmasters isn't set up for it, but if your club can take it, sell the program as a year up front and say it's a year, a year commitment is really going to put you in a place to feel more stable with what you're trying to accomplish. And here's the dues for a year. And then you have it as a club and you pay the 6 month and then you pay the renewal in April. It's all how you look at it. And you can do that. That's why clubs have bank accounts. Okay. So we're going to move forward. I'm tight on time and I want to keep you all on time. The point of this exercise though is that you can take it with you. So I encourage all of you with as a deck to look at this. You can even do this future at your next deck meetings. Division directors do this with your teams. Ask each other for, this is my challenge. Where can you help me with that? And that'll help you throughout the year to really looking at what's going on that might keep you from being successful and then generating ideas to do that. This is just showing you district success plan. It's the roadmap for the district. So Jennifer and her team have been working on this with all of you as to how you can do things in order to be successful, right? So the district success plan is really looking at lots of core areas and saying who's involved with making sure what we're doing, that we're on the path to success for the year. So what do we look at, right? Strengthening our district strategies as a whole. Where have you been? Like, what is your district been doing well? What have you had some challenges with? Where can you do things in your areas and your divisions to be more successful this year? Focus on where you want to go, and then that's going to help you strive for excellence. So really putting that plan together now and working it throughout the year, rather than 6 months from now and trying to hurry up and be scattered to get those goals achieved. Here's a picture, and I absolutely love it. So I'm going to ask kind of what you think you see here, right? Ask yourselves what you're looking at. So when we look at distinguished, there's a lot of things going on here, right? You have the support, and are your goals met? So you have people at the top with their hands in the air, and I call it the Rocky pose because they're at the top of the stairs and they're feeling like they're accomplished. And then you're looking at the club quality side and you're really helping each other. So the stronger ones are up a little bit higher on the mountain when they're helping those who are struggling up the mountain, right? And what's the overall membership experience? So when you're looking at that throughout the year, try and determine what is your member getting out of it. And if they are getting that experience that they need, so goals are being met, they feel supported, they feel that the quality is better within their club, they're going to have a better experience, they're going to renew, and it's going to help the club build that momentum to be distinguished and successful throughout the year. What's next? So what's next for you? And I always like asking that you have something to take away with you and what you want to work on. So make sure that you're collaborating with your other district leaders, asking them like, this is what I'm seeing. Do you have any ideas for overcoming these challenges? Or here's some things that I saw that worked, and share what's working with them so that you all can be successful, right? If you know that someone's doing something well, share it. If something's challenging, share that as well, because you can help them not get to that challenging point. Chart your own path to distinguish. So really sit down and think about where you are in your areas, your divisions, even your clubs, and then the district as a whole, and what you think is obtainable, and map out how you think you're going to get there. Work your plan and set the district up for success. So you know what your plan should be. Now help that. You all come together and are just a piece in the overall, but one of you isn't successful, then it's really hard for all of you to be successful. Continue to review your plan throughout the year to make updates where necessary, and always celebrate your successes, the successes of others, the club members, your district members. Always celebrate the successes as little as they are, because it's going to help with the retention rates. And overall, looking at the district success and planning for it, make sure to collaborate with other district leaders to overcome your challenges, and then chart your own path to distinguish. And I have no doubt that all of you are going to be successful, and District 35 will be distinguished for better at the end of the year. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. We have a few minutes for questions. What additional questions do you have?
Yeah, questions, comments, anything. seeing a lot in chat. So
Yeah, it's been a lot of interaction. I
which
think.
is great, right? So I
Yeah.
encourage all of you to save the chat feature too. I wasn't able to touch on everything. You all were sharing quite a bit in chats, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But continue those conversations outside the fear is the most important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the other thing that I'd like to say is, and it's okay, you know, we shared the dashboard screen with all of you. If you don't know what you're looking at, just ask. And I found that from being a district leader that you don't always know where we think you know, and it's okay to ask. Liz, I saw your hand go up.
Yes, thank you. I'm just wondering, so you're down in Chicago, right?
I am.
Okay, I used to live down there and I was going every week actually for a while to take improv lessons. But like, what if people from our district wanted to network with people in your district? How would we find out about doing that? When do you have your conferences? How much bigger is your district compared to ours? Like, what kind of benefits what kind of synergistic benefits would exist?
Sure. So, and currently, so I'm in District 30, so I'm the northwest part of the city and then all into the suburbs. So I actually touch up to 35, which is my home district. And then there's another part, which is District 103. They split off from us. So that's the city and further south. But my point was on this is that Jennifer and her other district trio members have contacts. So we all go on region calls and they know the other contacts in the region. So they very easily, like if you had a question on something or if you wanted to know when it's conference time or just events, they can, I'm pretty sure that they could probably get that information and share it for you. Or you can go to other district websites. So you can always do a Google search on the district and go to their website and then find out how to contact as well.
And I'm just wondering too, because I mean, you're one of the three biggest cities in the United States. Does your district do better than ours? Just because a lot of times you have people that locate there for a certain, they're like at a higher professional.
I'll be
level.
honest, I don't know.
Really, I don't know.
I don't know that our district is necessarily doing any better than your district. I think everybody's had the challenges over the past couple of years. We were striving a lot with a lot of corporate clubs for a really long time, and that's why we split, because we were so heavily concentrated in the city. But now there's challenges this year too, you know, the last couple of years, because businesses aren't always in the city anymore, right? They've gone remote, they've gone hybrid. Just because you're located near a big city, the districts are still struggling. In the United States, all districts are struggling. And I just want to make that, like, don't feel that because you're stretched out over an entire state and we have a more densely populated area that we're not struggling as much. Everyone has the same challenges.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Tiffany? Thank you so much, Tiffany, for
You are very welcome.
This is absolutely fantastic. I think for me, the main thing is getting those practical tools, you know, like, and we have recorded this. I'm going to be sharing the link for the recording so you can go back and re-listen to some of the very practical situations you're going to find and also solutions. And remember that all of us in this call are a resource. Thanks, everybody, and I'll stop the recording.